Everybody in? Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of council to order at 7 p.m. on May 17th, 2022. We will stay seated for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who've taken care of this land for thousands of years. We'll move on to the mayor's address. This past week's record-breaking temperatures have been a welcome transition from a long winter and cool spring. With the warmer temperatures, black flies, mosquitoes, and ticks have returned as well. On Monday, May 9th, 2022, the Recreation Committee met to plan activities and events for the summer and fall. I want to acknowledge the time and effort that Cameron Montgomery, our Special Projects Coordinator, has invested in applying for grants to support recreation programs for our community. In particular, Cameron has applied for a grant to cover the cost of training and certifications of swim instructors for interested individuals in the county. This is important as COVID restrictions had a significant impact on these important programs, resulting in a shortage of qualified instructors. It's exciting to plan and gather for new events and activities without the restrictions of the last 2 years. The Center has experienced a return to in-person visits from the school boards as well as visitors from the public. The increased traffic has resulted in a planned expansion of the parking area and a proposal to designate the area as a community safety zone. Public Works has been busy with grading roads, and with the dry weather, dust is an issue. Liquid dust control applications are scheduled. Our spring freshet has concluded without any flooding events. That is the mayor's address, and can I get a mover and a seconder that the mayor's address be accepted as presented? Moved by Councillor Buckfall, seconded by Councillor Byrne. Councillor Buckfall?
Yes.
Councillor Byrne?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Ricky Shumfeld?
Yes.
And a yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 5 is the adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder that the May 3rd, 2022 regular council minutes be accepted as presented? Moved by Councillor Buckwald, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Are there any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, Councillor Buckwald.
Yes.
Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Ricky Shumfeld.
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you. Yes.
Go ahead, number 4.
Oh, my apologies. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? I see none. So before we move to our delegations tonight, we have with us from Shaw Woods, Steve Boland, one of the members of the committee. And what I would ask council is if they would allow the moving of item 9.2.1, which speaks to the Shaw Woods request, so that we can deal with it now, and then Mr. Boland doesn't have to sit through the whole meeting. Council be in favor of that move? Thank you. So we'll move to item 9.2.1. And a resolution that the Township of North Algona Wilberforce supports the request of Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Center to the County of Brantford to initiate measures to improve the safety of roadway users and visitors to Shaw Woods Education Center, and hereby requests that the County of Brantford reduce the speed limit along County Road 9, Baldy Road, between Highway 41 and Stonehenge Road to 60 kilometers per hour, and further that the county implement a community safety zone along County Road 9, Baldy Road, from Highway 41 southerly for a distance of approximately 2 kilometers to Basswood Road. So, go through and find that one. Can I get a mover and a seconder? You by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Wilberforce. Any comments or questions? We have Mr. Boland with us in case there are. I think this is a great idea because of the certainly the increased volume of traffic, and a lot of the visitors, especially from the schools, are younger children who certainly we want to make sure are safe. And maybe I'll just get Mr. Boland to explain what was done during the winter to increase some of that safety. But having a community safety zone is certainly a good idea.
Thank you, Mayor Rose, members of council, for considering our request, first of all. So during the winter, one of the things that we did, we had our snow removal contractor, Ross Sell, open up the driveway that goes down to the dam. One of the challenges we faced during the winter months was young children in particular had a difficult time getting across the snowbank along the side of the road. So, so they were all piled up, if you will, or lined up on the edge of the road. And in order to improve the safety, we had Mr. Sell's organization move that snowbank back for us at the end. So they had a place of refuge and crossing the road. Of course, we also have the automated flashers along County Road 9 that were installed in partnership with the county a number of years ago. They were quite well. We're hopeful that the county will see to our request and move it forward. We had a meeting with county staff last week, and they seemed receptive to the idea. They're going to be doing some speed monitoring and some traffic counting as well. I hope to take a report forward to committees and council during the June sessions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boland. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Buckwald.
Yes.
Councilor Byrne.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Ridley-Toonfeld.
Yes.
And a yes, and that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Enjoy the rest of the year. And welcome to visit us, Sean. Welcome to you.
So we'll go back to item 6.1, which is Paul Casson from Wishart Law. Can I get a mover and a seconder that the presentation, well, we'll have to wait till we have the presentation. So we'll do that after Paul has his presentation. Paul with us? Hello, Paul. We're here and we're ready for your presentation if you're ready to proceed.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you for the invitation to come and speak with you today. I understand that we're in closed session. Is that correct?
No, actually, we're in open.
Oh. Okay. And Council wants the presentation in open session?
Look through the mayor, Mr. Gasson, should this presentation be made in closed or open?
Well, typically, when I provide solicitor-client privileged information, it's done in a closed session because that preserves the solicitor-client privileged aspect of the communication. If it's done in open, the communication that I provide to counsel is not subject to solicitor-client privilege. So it's counsel owns that privilege. And if counsel wishes to waive the privilege and have me proceed in open session, that's counsel's right and decision that they can do that if they wish. Or anytime municipal counsel is speaking with their lawyer, they could certainly have it in closed session. So I'm in counsel's hands, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the procedural aspect of it.
So I will open it to council to see what direction they would like to go. Councilor Buckle.
Mr. Mayor, from my perspective is if we're receiving solicitor client information, it should be that in channel.
Are you moving that?
So
So moved by Councilor Buckwell that we go into close to deal with solicitor client information. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Burns. Councilor Buckwell.
yes.
Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Reggie Tonto.
Yes.
I'm a yes, so that's carried. Welcome back, everybody. So I have a motion that the presentation by Paul Casson from Wishart Law be accepted as information. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Reggie Schoenfeld. Councilor Buckwell.
Yes.
Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilor Reggie Schoenfeld.
Yes.
And a yes, that's carried. Thank you. So item 6.2 is Jeff McKay and Victoria McKay from Rogers Communication. Jeff and Victoria, are you there?
I am, yep.
So from our consultation with Paul Casson, council has decided that we are going to defer the concurrence, and we would like the public consultation process repeated for the new location of the tower. Plus, we are going to engage some third-party assistance.
Okay, and as you can appreciate, we're not privy to the legal opinion. However, we are willing certainly to engage with whatever we need to do to resolve it. I guess from our perspective, as we understand it, we're really dealing with a citation error in the environmental legislation, or a perceived error. It wasn't actually an error. It resulted from a problem with the CEAA was repealed a couple of years ago. And there are a number of pending changes which include that legislation that have not yet been made to the ISED protocol, such that the ISED protocol still specifies the CEAA. Nonetheless, I guess at the end of the day, whether it's CEAA or IAA, both of those are premised on the regulations designating physical projects. Under either case, it still ends up exempt from any intake and environmental review because telecommunications towers are not included in the regulations designated physical activities. So, our concern is that we're restarting the consultation to do the same consultation with the only change being the citation. And there being no impact on what that does to expand or include things in the scope that weren't previously included. So it's still exempt. We did recognize that the municipality reached out and asked us for more information on our screening for the environmental issues, and we did provide that for both cases, both sites, for the Species at Risk of Migratory Birds Convention Act as well. So that was the environmental issues, I think, that are kind of behind the whole process. Now, EORN has also indicated, Lisa's online here, also indicated that they may be helpful in working with the township to ensure that we have kind of the right understanding and a right procedure to move forward with. And whichever way we've got to go, you know, at the end of the day, we're happy to do that. I don't want to see the municipality or us spending a whole lot of time on this that will have no difference in the end result. So there's been no change to the people that are included in the consultation radius. In the case of the 8624 site, we have only one property that we'll be consulting with. In the case of the Kranz and Martha's site, there are the closest residential is 600 meters away, so there aren't any residential uses anywhere in the neighborhood of our tower. So I think there's a solution, and whether it's Rogers lawyers engage with the township's lawyers or EORN, we're certainly happy to do what we need to do here. If you know, and I don't know whether there's other questions, like the questions still continue to trickle in months after the consultation process concluded, and we have been addressing those. There's been nothing new that has come up here that's brought any additional concern. With respect to the 8624 site, the Connaught and Bulger Road site, we did take the public consultation into view, and we took it up with Rogers, and we have obtained approval for an undertaking to move the site a further 100 meters or so further from the property that had a number of concerns there, such that we believe that's more than satisfactorily resolved those. To give you some perspective, in the aggregate of sites that we have that are 91.5 meter towers, it's almost unheard of to see a tower that in one property within the consultation radius.
Jeff, I appreciate your feedback, but council has spoken and has made a decision to defer this, and we will be in touch. We do believe that we will be able to arrive at a solution so that we can move forward. But at this point, we're deferring until we get more information.
All right, that'd be great.
Thank you. Do I have to do if we're deferring, do I need a resolution?
Well, we can just defer when there are things will come up. 7.1 and 7.2.
Okay. Then we're moving on to item 6.4, which is Sonia Pizzeri from Enbridge Gas. Sonia, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, I'm just, it seems like I can't start my video unless the host lets me in.
Give us a second here.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, I guess while I'm waiting, thank you so much to you and council for the opportunity to present this evening.
You're welcome. I think council's looking forward to what you have and the project in general.
Perfect. Could everyone hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for confirming. I'm not sure if my colleague is on the line, Natasha Schaefer.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, perfect. Okay, wonderful. Well, I guess maybe while we're waiting, I'll quickly introduce, we can quickly introduce ourselves. Sonia Fazeri, I'm the Senior Advisor, Municipal and Stakeholder Engagement for Enbridge Gas, and I'm here to support, I've been supporting the project and, oh gosh, the community expansion program in general from a stakeholder engagement perspective. And I will pass the virtual baton over to my colleague Natasha for a quick intro.
I'm Natasha Schaefer, and I'm going to be the project manager on this project.
Oh, perfect. There we are. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, we do have a presentation that we'd like to share.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to put it on, hang on a sec, present mode, slideshow. Okay, could everyone see the slide deck?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, Natasha, over to you. We're just going to provide you with an overall overview of the project scope, and you're on, Natasha.
Perfect. So we're going to be bringing in natural gas from Snake River Line all the way to Eganville. The project is going to be broken down into 4 phases. So as you can see in the colors, there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Phase 1 is going to be mostly in the Adamston Bromley Township. Phase 2 is going to be mostly in the North Algona Wilberforce Township, and phase 3 and 4 are mostly going to be in the Bonashire Valley Townships. So it's going to be approximately, so the supply from Snake River to Eganville is going to be approximately, I think 22 kilometers. And then in town, we're going to be, in town's going to be 22 kilometers, and there's going to be 1.5 of steel, and there will be 10 kilometers of 8-inch high pressure plastic and 8.5 kilometers of 6-inch high pressure plastic. So we're currently evaluating 3 different routes to get the project in. So our option 1 is the one that we saw on the previous page, which goes down Cobden Road and then goes down on Highway 60 and then into town. Phase 1 has approximately 46 properties en route, and phase 2 has approximately 38 properties on the route. Our option 2 is an alternate route for phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 on the alternate would have approximately would go in front of 51 properties, and phase 2 would be going in front of approximately 41 properties. And then our option 3 is the original phase 1 route, and then with approximately 46 properties. And our phase 2 route is would change going up Bulga Road and would have approximately 70 properties on that route. So these are currently being evaluated by a geotechnical consultant and environmental consultant, and it will all be going into our LTC application to the Energy Board. And all alternates will be presented, and the based on different criteria, one alternative will be selected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sorry, Natasha, I just want to jump in. And in addition to the options that Natasha has presented here this evening, I do want to say that we had a really great meeting with Andrew and Michelle and one of your consultants a couple of weeks ago. And the information that was shared with us was extremely helpful and very much appreciated. And so the feedback that we received, this is the kind of information that is really helping develop the leave to construct application as well in the feedback. So I just wanted to, also include that, the feedback that we get from municipalities is very much, certainly reviewed and taken into consideration. And we look forward to more dialogue and discussions, certainly in the weeks and the months ahead. Sorry, Natasha, did you want to add anything further?
No, I think was it on my side. I was wondering if anybody had any questions at this point.
I'm looking at council right now. Those are comments. I just have one. You have three options there for the route. When would you narrow it down to your final choice?
So that will usually be during our LTC application, which at this time we're hoping will be in the fall, but we will be holding an open house that will be accessible to everybody to explain the different options and the findings, and we'll take into considerations comments as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so leading up to what Natasha was discussing, so part of the LTC is what we call a leave to construct application, and that is an application that we submit to the Ontario Energy Board. And so part of the planning process is what we call the notice of commencement, and we have here a sample of a notice of commencement that we use for the Selwyn Community Expansion Project. So part of our outreach and consultation is we put an ad insert in the local paper inviting the community to participate in a virtual open house that we typically hold for 2 weeks. And this is where, information will be posted on a dedicated project email address, and all the information about the virtual open house and how to log on and how to participate is provided in the newspaper ad. So very similar to the one that we have here that we used for Selwyn. That's typically what we'll see in the local paper. And of course, part of our consultation and engagement process is ensuring that we hear and, we gather feedback and information, questions, concerns from the local residents regarding this proposed project, as well as interested groups as well, and Indigenous communities. So that's part of our consultation that we do as well. And so, with respect to, the pandemic, we had to pivot. And so typically we used to have our open houses in the community, in, one of the local community centers, whatnot. But, with COVID, we've now pivoted to online. And so basically what this looks like is storyboards in a form of a presentation with a voice recorder, and it'll just take the viewer like a tour of the entire phase of the project and all the scope of the project, the environmental considerations. So it's a whole slew of storyboards that we've now put into like a virtual presentation. And so one of the things that we talked about with Andrew and Michelle is, leading up to that, it would probably be very helpful for Enbridge to provide a couple of large storyboards just to display them in council lobby. So if anybody comes in person, they can actually take a better look at the map. And so we're, certainly more than happy to accommodate that, and also provide hard copies of the storyboard in a form of a handout. So again, whoever comes into the council administration office in person, they can grab one, and certainly they'll be able to read and gather information, again in this format as well. And so certainly part of our consultation engagement is, the ongoing consultation that we undertake. And at the moment, we're consulting with the Williams Treaty First Nations, the Algonquins of Ontario, and the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan. And so right now we're in the phase of stage 2 archaeological studies. And so this is where typically the First Nations are expressed interest in participating in the archaeological studies. And, part of our consultation is to ensure that we are engaging with the local First Nations, and, certainly ensuring that they have participation and engagement in the field with our archaeologists as well. So we're looking at the schedule. We're looking, to begin the stage 2 archaeological field work, the beginning of Q3 this year. We've hired Stantec to be our consultant, And we're hoping that the majority of the archaeological work along the proposed routes will be completed sometime in September. And, you know, certainly part of our consultation engagement is our commitment to continuing to keep, you know, the municipalities, the Township of North Algona Wilberforce, and also all the First Nations apprised and engaged in the project and the scope of work and any milestones that we have coming up. I'll just pause right there. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Not seeing any. Go ahead, someone.
Okay. Okay. And so part of our application, we also look at environmental factors. And again, you know, this is where Stantec comes in. You know, not only do we have archaeologists, but we have biologists. Like, we've got a whole slew of subject matter experts. And part of the application is to build a project. And so we look at certain features like socioeconomic, terrestrial, pipeline design, construction, watercourse crossing, species at risk. And, you know, part of our studies, excuse me, also include implementing mitigation and protective measures. So, you know, for example, I mean, I won't read every, you know, item here, but for example, and, you know, for doing a watercourse crossing, typically what we'll use as a construction methodology is horizontal directional drilling, and that's considered a mitigative measure. And so basically what that is, as opposed to drilling through a river, we would drill underneath the river. And so this way it's not impacting the watercourse crossings. It's certainly not impacting any of the fish in the water. So, and you know, we take our environmental report incredibly, like very, very seriously. You know, we want to ensure that, you know, if we do identify any environmentally sensitive areas, that we protect and we implement mitigation measures, which is why I always go back to consultation and engagement. It is very critical that we do this properly and we hear from as many community members as possible. And then lastly, you know, right now we're at the phase where we will be doing test digs. Test digs will be required. And part of that is also requiring permits, road occupancy permits, to undertake these test digs. And basically what they are, we're proposing that we undertake them on the shoulder of the road, not in the road pavement. And this is exactly a test dig that we did for one of the system expansion projects. I believe it was last year or earlier this year. I think it was last year, actually. And so really the purpose of doing this is to help identify ground conditions. We also collect soil samples, and all this information that we're gathering really helps us create the project design and the pipeline running line as well. And you'll see that they're, you know, the test digs are typically 1 by 1, 1.5 meters deep. And typically work like this takes a couple of weeks along the proposed route. And once the test digs are done, you know, we certainly put the topsoil back, and, you know, we leave the area the way we found it in the beginning. And so this is where we have our restoration efforts as well implemented. So if you'll see that looks like topsoil was removed and there was a layer of grass. So that's something that we take care of. We want to ensure that we leave the land the way we found it. And then so right now we're doing very, very preliminary studies. We're in the, you know, early stages of the proposed project. We've hired JD Barnes to do our surveys. And so, you know, part of this presentation is also to let, you know, council and to let community know that if you do see Enbridge trucks in the area or JD Barnes in the area, you know, we're doing preliminary surveys. They're not invasive. It really, you know, JD Barnes will be mapping out ground features, property lines, verifying subsurface utilities. So this is all the work that we're currently compiling right now. And we've hired EXP, and they'll be conducting geotechnical studies. So taking samples of the ground, you know, are we dealing with rock? Are we dealing with sand? So all this information really is being gathered slowly across all 3 municipalities. Again, we're in the very early stages, very, very preliminary work. And then, last but not least, here's, this is a proposed timeline that we have. Again, it's subject to change, and certainly this is always pending regulatory approvals and permits. Again, we're focusing on the archaeological assessments, which contribute to, helps build the environmental report. Consultation and engagement, certainly goes throughout the life of the project. It doesn't stop right, when we submit the leave to construct application. It's ongoing. Same as the planning and design. This is a stage where we're continuously planning, designing, and this again, this is where the virtual open house is critical for us to gather the feedback from the community. And so at the end of this year, that's when we're planning to submit the leave to construct application. We anticipate OEB approval the following year, and pending all regulatory approvals in place, we hope to start constructing at the end of 2023. So this concludes our presentation. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Not seeing any questions. There'll probably be more as the project progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our plan. I certainly want to make a commitment that, I'm here, Natasha's here to answer any questions that Council, Andrew, Michelle may have, your colleagues, and even the community. And what I'd like to do is certainly set up quarterly touch point meetings with Council. And so, as the project progresses, as we hit certain milestones, we want to make sure that Council is well informed in advance. And certainly if there's any questions that come up, we want to make sure that we provide Council with the answers and arm you with any messaging in the event that, you do start getting questions from community members.
Well, thank you very much for that information and update.
Oh, well, it's our pleasure. Now, I wasn't sure if we have time for another presentation. I pulled together a couple of slides just to provide a quick overview of the franchise agreement that we would have to enter into in order to service your community with natural gas. So I wasn't sure if this is something that you'd be interested in. Happy to provide an overview of just an overview and answer any questions that you may have as well.
Will it take long? Because we have quite a lengthy meeting tonight.
I can, I can really, I think if anything, it's like 4 slides.
Okay.
And I promise I will not, oh no, wrong presentation, hang on. I promise I will not take long. This is more of an overview of the process. Okay, so here we go. So real quick, the franchise agreement is really an agreement that outlines the terms and conditions by which we deliver safe, reliable, and affordable gas to residents, businesses, and industries within the municipality. And again, the franchise agreement is submitted to the Ontario Energy Board for approval under the Municipal Franchise Act. We currently have approximately 340 franchise agreements in place with every single municipality that we service, and we use the model franchise agreement that the OEB has approved for use in every municipality in Ontario. So there's, key terms and conditions that are set and approved by the OEB. And, when I talk about the model franchise agreement, this is the one that was adopted by the OEB in 2000. So, basically the intent here is every franchise agreement is the same. We don't create it. We don't create it. The Ontario Energy Board creates this franchise agreement. And so we have, the same one we have is with all municipalities across the board. And so So then we have what we call the certificate of public convenience and necessity. And this is again granted by the Ontario Energy Board. And basically the OE gives a particular utility an exclusive right to supply gas to expand service within that municipality. So that's specifically what a certificate of public convenience and necessity is. Now, under the Municipal Franchise Act, a certificate must be granted by the OEB before any work can begin or before any construction can take place. And even if we have a signed franchise agreement, we would still need a CPCN certificate of public convenience and necessity before we can do any construction within any municipality. And then really quick overview, how is a franchise agreement renewed? Well, basically, a package is pulled together by a regulatory team. It's then shared with, typically it's shared with the CAO or the clerk. And, we request to have, we request to be on the council agenda. And, we also, and part of that process is, once we get the bylaw and council resolution passed to enter into a franchise agreement, we then go, we also have to do first and second reading. So first and second reading needs to be passed. Council resolution needs to be provided, agreeing to enter into a franchise agreement. And once we have all that paperwork, we'll make an application to the Ontario Energy Board for approval for the franchise agreement. What the OEB will then do is they'll post a notice in the local newspaper of the municipality, giving everyone a couple of weeks to comment and ask questions about the application. Once that notice has expired, the board deliberates and approving the franchise agreement. So an issue and decision order, an issue of a decision and order is then released by the Ontario Energy Board. And so once we have that paperwork from the Ontario Energy Board, we then go back to the municipality. We put their bylaw in through third and final reading, and we execute the franchise agreement. And so once the municipality does that, they then send us the executed bylaw and agreement, and then we execute on our end, and we send a fully executed copy of the franchise agreement to the OEB, and we now have a franchise agreement in place for 20 years. So essentially that's the process. And so, I basically, this is what happens. And then this here's on the right hand side, there's a copy of typically what a notice would look like in the local paper. And that's it. That's pretty much the process. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I'm seeing no questions. So once again, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate Mayor and Council. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
So I have a motion that the presentation by Sonia Pizzari in Bridge Gas be accepted as information. Moved by Councillor Buchwald, seconded by Councillor Reicher-Schenfeld. Councillor Buchwald?
Yes.
Councillor Burns?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Reicher-Schenfeld?
Yes.
And the next that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.1 is the Rogers Communication Tower Site CA6 4 and Common Nursery in Boldy Road. And I have the resolution that council has decided we will defer. Could I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor Buchwald, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Councillor Buchwald?
Yes.
Councillor Burns?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Reicher-Schenfeld?
Yes.
Yes, that's carried, not carried, but that's deferred. I have a motion, 7.2 Rogers Communication Tower here on site C8512 Cross Road and Carthage Road. And again, council has decided to defer. Could I get a move in a second? Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Esposito. Councilor Bucklow,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Esposito.
Yes,
Yes, that's deferred. And so we're at item 7.3, which is the master transportation plan. I have a motion that council agrees to participate in the County of Renfrew Transportation Master Plan RFP, providing that abutting municipalities to the Township of North Algona Wilberforce also participate in the RFP. Could I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments or questions? Councilor Wright, you show up.
I just have a concern under financial implications. It says unknown at this time. So I mean, is that something that we're?
Andrew?
So through the mayor, there would be no financial implication unless you decided to go with the RFP if that first goes out. It doesn't mean you're in, it just means you're participating in the RFP process.
Thank you.
And I know the county has made that clear that even though you're part of the RFP process, you can opt out after if you so this. I'll call the vote. Councilor Bucklow,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Esposito,
Yes,
and a yes. Carried, thank you. Item 7.4 is the Public Works report. I have a motion that council accepts the Public Works update report as information. Could I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Bucklow. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Bucklow,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yeah.
Councilor Robinson,
Yeah.
Councilor Esposito,
yeah,
and a yes. Carried, thank you. Item 7.5 is the township logo revitalization. I have a motion that council accept the use of the enhanced logo for the newsletter, letterhead, and other purposes. Can I get a mover in a second? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Bucklow. Comments or questions? Councilor Robinson?
No, I was just going to comment on the vividness of the outlets that were being used and that.
Thank you. Councilor Bucklow?
When the original logo was there, that was state of the art. So it's much nicer to see the detail and color and the imagery in the logo. It's nice to see that.
Councilor Esposito?
I agree with the upgrade. Looks awesome. The only concern is if they ever wanted to get somebody to embroider that logo on it, it'll cost a lot more money.
That will be.
But I mean, you could still go, you could even go with the bottom one for that kind of thing. The old one and like all the other correspondence with basically more or less free, right? So that was just a thought.
Certainly is much sharper and vibrant than the old one.
Fly.
Councilor Bucklow?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought you were asking something.
Councilor Bird?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Esposito?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, it's carried, thank you. And then 7.6 is the Agri-Food Career Fair Report. So I have a motion that council accepts the Agri-Food Career Fair Report as information. Moved by Councilor Esposito, seconded by Councilor Burns. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Bucklow,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Esposito,
yes,
yes, carried, thank you. I think 7.7 is the fire apparatus procurement report. So I have a motion to council accepts the report as presented and provide direction to staff as to the next step. Seeing that we have a member of the fire department here, can we bring up the report and then we will allow to speak to it. Actually, can I get a mover and a second to just do the report on the floor? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Burke. Yeah, so yeah, please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I'll try not to, try not to take long. Just a little background as part of ongoing process to upkeep our fire department fleet. We did a presentation back in early 2001, October. Following the presentation, a motion was passed indicating that the fire department should proceed with the necessary steps required to move ahead with the replacement of our current tanker in Rankin. It's 1993. An invitation has since been sent out for tender. It was posted on the 18th of February with a closing date of 22nd of April. At the time of closing, only one supplier, City View Specialty Vehicles, they're out of Mississauga, they're a representative for Rosenbauer Emergency Vehicles. They're the only company that had submitted a proposal which met our specifications. City View also submitted a proposal which involved one of their stock trucks. So that being said, a lot of the suppliers, they have certain stock vehicles that they mass produce and keep online. So pricing, during the preparation of the 2021 presentation, fire department consulted with two different suppliers to obtain their best estimates of the expected cost to buy a tanker built to our specifications. The consensus at the time was $440,000 should be an appropriate amount used as a budget figure, while allowing for some cost increases in material, etc. That was the number that we presented to council during that time. When the bid proposal was received from City View, the quoted price was now at $532,625 plus HST. This price is confirmed for a period of 60 days. City View again also provided a quote of $356,415 for one of their stock vehicle designs, which are partway through production at this time. The suitability of the designs, the apparatus group examined both proposals in detail and came up with the following conclusions. The response to the tender, the new build, meets all the essential requirements with only some minor adjustments. The stock truck that they also sent us, this vehicle is longer than our existing apparatus. It's 30 foot 6 inches versus our 28 foot that we have now. It will fit within the available spaces within the fire hall, but room to move around the vehicles is quite a bit restricted. That being said, we are limited for space because we do have another vehicle parked in behind. Also, the stock truck proposal has a number of design deficiencies, including some significant items. When questioned about possibilities of changing some of the stuff, Rosenbauer Industries indicated that many of the items could not be changed. The items which could be changed were some hose bed covers, shelving in the compartments, remote water level indicators, pump compartment heater, and proper paint scheme to match our other vehicles. Would be approximately $35,000 to add to the quoted price of the stock vehicle. Of the items Rosenbauer can't change, the most significant is the storage location designated for the portable water reservoir. It would need to be lifted about 6 feet and slid into a void inside the truck's water tank. The procedure would be awkward, and we believe that it presents a real risk of injury to the firefighters. Summary, while the new build proposal is priced significantly higher than the estimate provided to council, the fire department assessment is that the proposal is best fit for the needs of the department and will allow us to continue to serve the residents into the future. Alternatives for council, not to accept the recommendation and provide specific direction to staff as to the next steps. These steps could include purchasing a stock vehicle, not accepting either proposal, reissuing a modified tender request at a later date, or deferring any decision. As far as financial, the fire apparatus industry has been experiencing fire cost increases, sometimes on a monthly basis. Prices are expected to rise another 15 to 20% within the next year, and are not expected to drop anytime in the near future. As far as firefighting implications, with the retirement of 9740, which was an older tanker we had, our fleet was reduced to 2 water supply vehicles. The estimated delivery time for the new build is 450 days from the contract acceptance. While in generally good repair, the unit to be replaced out of the Rankin Hall is 29 years old. We expect it to have another 4 or 5 years potential service life remaining, but replacement should be ordered sooner than later. This will limit the time we are potentially without an in-service tanker, a condition which will also be reflected in the FSU, which is the fire underwriters, and it will affect residents' insurance rates based on the fire underwriters.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions? Councillor Buckle.
Just to reiterate some of the things that the deputy chief was saying. I had an opportunity to attend a trade show at the fire conference the first weekend in May, and I actually spoke along with Deputy Chief Brown over down there with some of the manufacturers. And yeah, the price increases, they just keep happening. The late delivery times just keep extending. One of the issues, because of the amount of water we need on our trucks, you can only go so high on a truck before it can be safe. So the trucks have to be a specific length to be able to take that weight. That's the reason why we have a difficult finding a stock truck that will fit in any of the halls. But our halls were built back in the day when trucks were this small. So that's one of the issues with getting a stock truck or trying to find one, or getting a custom truck that can carry the water that we need and fit in our movement. This is probably, in my opinion, this is probably the best deal you're going to get on a suitable tanker.
Councillor Aguilar.
I guess it's just the financial implications, because it's like over $100,000 more than we had budgeted for, and I get the whole idea that the costs are gonna continue to go up. I mean, the other thing we have to consider too now is the price of diesel and how that's gonna impact our financial budgets moving forward for the end of the year. So I mean, if we go with something like this, is there something else we could save in the fire department budget? Like something that you budgeted for as a want as opposed to a need? Because it appears that this is a need, and I agree that prices are gonna continue to go up. But from a fiscal point of view, I think we have to be very careful.
Councillor Buckle.
We couldn't do this realistically as a right purchase within our budget, because I don't think we budgeted that amount. I think the plan was to purchase over time through venture. So it wouldn't make a huge difference from this year. We got this finance year, because correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Deputy Chief, but it would be looking at the first part would be ordering the chassis, so that would be the initial outlay.
Generally speaking, lately the manufacturers, they will not require any money up front, even for cab and chassis. They took that all into consideration so that when they order the cab and chassis, they get it through their dealer, their supplier, whatever. That way, if something happens that we order it and send it there, and then the body doesn't fit or something, then that's on us. So they take all that into account, they order it, and as far as I'm aware of, no money, the last couple of vehicles we've purchased has changed hands until the final product was delivered.
So we'd be looking at the budget implication to be in next year.
Yes.
But I just did this time plan for it.
Any other questions? Councilor Robinson?
Not really another question, or just a comment. I mean, it's indicative of what is happening throughout. Number one, the other thing that I would be concerned about is as we move forward, supply chain is getting tighter. And it may not be there if we don't move forward. That is the biggest concern, which would stretch it even further.
Councilor Buckle?
And we did see on the last property purchase how extended that delivery got from the initial projections.
I certainly have no doubt that we need to upgrade or update that truck at some point. My struggle with it is the $100,000 increase from when it was first moved forward. And I agree with Councilor Reddy-Fonto. I don't know how much longer as small municipalities we can all afford to continue running our own independent fire departments. I think at some point we have to get more creative and start working with our neighbors, because we're all facing these increases, which are becoming really, really difficult to manage. I mean, a truck that's over $500,000 now, that, yeah, probably will last 30 years. But how often do we use it? I mean, it's not like a plow truck. It's there because you need it when you have a fire, definitely. But boy, it sure is not cheap to maintain a fire department. Is there any possibility for finding, you know, a used truck or some other option that would keep us within our budget?
In my past experience of dealing with used vehicles, yes, there's used vehicles out there. Quality wise, you have to be mindful of why people are selling them if they're still operational, okay? Because they're selling them because they're getting old and they're replacing them, or they're selling them because they want them to be somebody else's problem. Okay, so there is potential out there, but again, what we're looking for and the parameters that we have, both as what we needed to carry and where we need to store it, they're going to be very few and far between if you are able to find one.
And are we down to one manufacturer now? Is that also part of the problem, that there's no competition?
There is competition. However, some suppliers, for various reasons, I don't know what they were, chose not to tender. I know one manufacturer, Fort Dairy Industries, they chose not to tender because they were concerned about the truck being too short to carry that much water. Their people were concerned about that. However, the Rosenbauer engineers are fine to their blueprint of the manufacturing of it. So different manufacturers have different ideas, I guess.
Councilor Buckle?
The manufacturer that I spoke with in Toronto basically had to say, he said, we can't work with all that small, right? We need the truck to be a certain length to hold that much water and that much safely. So we're not, they didn't tender on either for that same reason, right? If we put in a longer truck or like space world to put a longer truck in, we might be able to get more tenders. But we went down and we measured out both halls, right, to see which one had the most space. And we even considered if we had to, you know, move trucks around to try and make it work, but there wasn't enough difference in the size of the building.
So if you went with the 32 foot, is it 32?
32.
How tight would it be?
Well, the rescue vehicle that is parked, crossways behind it, you would not be able to have two people open doors to get in that vehicle before it's taken out with fire. You could walk around behind it, and that's about it.
And now you wonder if some back.
And that's exactly, yes.
But it almost, to me anyway, it seems like it's $100,000 issue or challenge just to get a 2-foot shorter truck.
There is, the other thing too, that was put out in our spec for the new apparatus is there was not that it's $100,000 worth by any means, but there was some new equipment to come on that truck suited for that vehicle as opposed to a stock truck. And the design features themselves, there was a lot of significant differences, like the stock truck has the quarter tank issue. It carries no ladders. No new equipment comes with it. Very little compartment space. It doesn't have, it has stationary pumping only, that it doesn't have the ability to pump and drive, which we could use for grass fires or certain incidents along the road. Whereas the custom truck has significant more compartment space on it. It is 2 feet shorter. It has that drive and pump capabilities, which Stopper does not. It has ladder storage. It has some other safety features on it, like it has a swing down quarter tank bracket instead of trying to jam the quarter tank in a hole in the middle of the water tank. So, I mean, it's certainly, when you look at the two vehicles, it's an apple and oranges type thing, which is why there is such a significant difference in the price, but we're just basically, asking, for direction, whether if council doesn't see, feasible to purchase the custom design one, and you would sooner go with the stock one at a lesser price, or if you want us to consider re-tendering, or.
Council Buckle.
I'll just make the comment as far as the used truck, I'll actually look at the cheapest there. I've actually looked a fair bit online to see what's out there. And basically you're looking at 20-year-old trucks. The price is not a single. To give you the years.
Council Robinson.
What would you change in the tender if you were re-tendering?
We would have to sit down with our committee and see where we would be willing to, where we would be able to, for lack of a better term, cut some corners and still have a suitable vehicle that's going to work for the department.
But would that change the dollar amount? I guess the question.
There's a chance that it could drop it slightly. Like I remember when we did the original proposal, we talked about some pumping and stuff like that. And when you're dealing with a fire pump, that's one of the areas you would make significant cost savings, and it was only $30,000 difference. So to start cutting a compartment here or some doors there or whatever, you're looking at minimum price changes there within, probably $15,000-$20,000.
I guess my concern is, yeah, we could probably purchase this truck. The next one might be $750,000. At some point, we have to find some, I think, some different options. Any input from staff?
So from the sun reflection. So the stock truck, the major issues with the stock truck, one is the length of the truck.
Yes.
And two is the ability to safely take a portable tank off and on.
Yes, that's two issues, yes.
So those are the two biggest issues.
Equipment storage or space is another one.
If you were to retender and you changed your length to the 30.6, and understanding that there's going to be a problem with storage in putting the truck in bay, do you think that that would significantly change the tender amounts, being that you're going with a truck that's in more common length?
Personally, I do not believe so. You might have a couple more tenders. Whether it will change the price significantly, I don't believe so. Because again, you're looking at, to change the price significantly, you'd have to go with like a more plainer type stock vehicle. Just because you're doing 2 feet longer, it's not gonna change the price significantly as far as material and stuff, because they're just measuring it a couple inches longer here and there.
So just like moving forward, so like, let's just say, then we went with the truck, it's $100,000 more. Is there any savings you could make within the fire department to decrease your budget by $100,000 in the next few years? You know, like sometimes you need new equipment, and I think of then we got the, the jaws to open up cars. Like, I'm just thinking down the road, it's like a balancing act, right? If you have a pool of money, yes, but then can you decrease it somewhere else? You know what I mean? So that we're decreasing other things so that we can provide monies for the fire truck itself.
I think a lot of that has to do with call volume and stuff like that, which is kind of beyond our control, but I'm sure there is some potential space for some adjustments. Where that would be, we'd have to sit down and see where we could sort that out with Chief Champ. $100,000 over the next couple of years could be tight, but I mean, there's room for some potential adjustments, I'm sure.
So I think then that would make me feel better spending the $100,000, and I realize there's lots of fun in all the time, right? And there's lots of wants and needs, so like if you decreased your wants and you got what you needed, then overall, like a couple of years, maybe you won't need, right? It's just like, it's your household budget, right? It's a firefighter budget.
Councilor Robinson.
When I look at it and I look at the timeline, yes, it's going to be significantly more. But if you could say over the next 2 years, minimize some of your other expenses by 50,000, that's taking 100,000 and pushing it over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a 450-day delivery timeline, you are then able to spread everything out in the planning process.
Andrew?
Just maybe to help council along and just comment on buying used versus new. In the fire truck world, the municipal trucks go through their service life and replaced. So municipal trucks are not usually to be buy used. The only used possibility would be a private truck, which doesn't come up very often at all. And I would caution council looking at asking the fire department to save $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year. If your fire department submitting a really good operations budget, there isn't $50,000 to cover, there's $100,000. The place that council should perhaps look is a debenture over 20 years or 30 years, because the clerk could come back with information that your payment is going to be the same, you're just paying longer. And certainly the fire department work on finding efficiencies every year, we should be doing that. But probably the place you should be looking is the venture time as opposed to, playing with truck.
I guess, because I know from, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know on your replacement of vehicles, there's still more coming up, correct?
Oh, yes, I can't think off the top of my head.
And it's, I know you had to redo that schedule because if that schedule would have been followed in earlier years, we probably wouldn't be where we are now, but here we are. So I'm trying to remember, is there 2 or 3 more trucks that still are coming?
I think the next one was due this year.
Will be this year,
The next one will be
is it next to next to, and then after that should be January.
Oh, and
So could I suggest to council that we defer this item for tonight and that the clerk come back with financing options for the truck as presented?
I could be okay with that. It's council.
Yes.
So I'll call the vote to defer then. Councilor Bucklow,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddy-Trumpo.
Yes,
And so, thank you very much. That's good. Thank you, Rob. Item 7.8 is the RFQ award for exterior painting of the Golden Lake Community Center. I have a motion that council accepts the RFQ painting of the Golden Lake Community Center report as presented and accepts a quotation from Strategic Painting Company in the amount of $23,323.11, including HSC. Can I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Burke. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Buckle,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddy-Trumpo,
yes,
and a yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.9 is the library reports. I have a motion that council accepts the April and May library reports as information. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Buckle, seconded by Councilor Grant. Comments or questions? I just had one, the online auction, is that closed now?
Um, 7. It's about $1,300, I think.
Is that comparable to the other ones? they
It's a
did?
little bit less, participation was not as strong. But I think they felt that there were other
Competing.
competing interests that was taking place. But the interest is still very positive.
Thank you. I'll call the vote. Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddy-Trumpo,
yes,
and a yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 7.10 is the Lake Dory boat launch. I have a motion that council accepts the Lake Dory boat launch report as information and directs staff to include the municipal boat launches in the service review. Can I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Brown. Comments or questions? Councilor Buckwell,
I'm assuming that we'll send information in this report that we're. That's what we request.
by response, then yes.
thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddy-Trumpo,
Yes,
and yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 7.11 is the special projects coordinator. I have a motion that council accepts the special projects May update report as presented. Moved by Councilor Robinson, yes, seconded by Councilor Reddy-Trumpo. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Leckie Schonfeld,
Yes.
and a yes. Carried. Thank you. Item 7.12 is the kayak fishing tournament. I have a motion that council resolves to grant a special events permit for one-time camping in Melissa Bishop Park for the kayak fishing tournament event for the Water and Dirt Festival, and a one-time bonfire during the event if there is no fire ban at that time. And further, the council directs staff to action the items described in this report. Did I get a very seconder? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Burns. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councillor Buckwalt,
Yes.
Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Leckie Schonfeld,
Yes.
and a yes, carried. Thank you. Item 9.1 is the non-action correspondence. I have a motion that council accepts correspondence items 9.1.1 to 9.1.3 as information. They got to move in a second, moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buckwalt. Councillor Buckwalt.
Yes.
Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Leckie Schonfeld,
Yes.
and a yes. Carried. Thank you. So that brings us to 9.2.2. We have a motion that council supports the From Renfrew County with Love fundraising night and approves a monetary gift in the amount of $500. Did I get a move in a second? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Burns. Comments or questions? Councillor Buckwalt,
Yes.
Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Leckie Schonfeld,
Yes.
and a yes, that's carried. Thank you. And that brings us to bylaws. Now therefore, the Council of North Algona Wilberforce enact the following bylaws: 2022-29, execution of agreement Schedule A, and 2022-30, established procedures for vote by mail, Schedule A. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Leckie Schonfeld, seconded by Councillor Buckwalt. Comments, questions? Being none, Councillor Buckwalt,
Yes.
Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Leckie Schonfeld,
Yeah.
yes, carried. Thank you. Are there any matters of urgency? Any notice of motion? We've done reports from committee. Other than the next one, which is a motion in regards to the Recreation Committee. I have a resolution that the resolution 2022-04-26-145 dated April 26, 2022, that council supports the recommendations from the Recreation Committee as discussed at the April 11th, 2022 meeting to purchase 2 fat tire bikes for the vending hub in the amount of $2,600 plus HST from the recreation capital budget be rescinded. They got to move in a second. Moved by Councillor Leckie Schonfeld, seconded by Councillor Burns. Comments or questions? Councillor Buckwalt.
Do we have a rationale for the reversal?
Councillor Leckie Schonfeld.
At a rec committee meeting, it was decided that they'd rather spend those monies on something else than to fat tire bikes. They decided that the bikes themselves don't get used as much as some of the other. So the committee decided that they'd rather use monies for something else, and basically what's gonna happen is the person lending out the equipment, maybe we'll keep track and then I can submit another tie-on and have more.
Okay, so basically should take the less bang.
Right.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Council Buckwalter,
Yes.
Council Byrne,
Yes.
Council Robinson,
Yeah.
Council Reckie-Trumpo,
Yes.
and yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 13.2, Recreation Committee recommendations. I have a motion that council supports the recommendations from the Recreation Committee as discussed at the May 7th, 2022 meeting to change the pub security fee to $20 per family usage and further that volleyballs and netting be purchased. So they're moving a second, moved by Councilor Buckwalter, seconded by Councilor Byrne. Questions or comments? Councilor Buckwalter?
Two questions. One, what was the old security fee? And two, we have pricing on the volleyball stuff.
The old. I'll let Michelle answer that.
So the previous security fee was $50 per item. At the May 7th, recreation committee meeting, the recommendation was to, change that to $20 per family.
Councilor
And if I may speak to that, there's a lot of discussion about trying to get people involved, so we didn't want it to be cost prohibitive. So $50 an item for a family that doesn't have money would be, so then we decided 20. And then I guess, in terms of volleyball and netting, no, we didn't possibly, we still have a recreation budget and there was a need for it. So that's, I mean, it's not 100,000.
Yeah. All questions.
That's right.
Thank you. Anything else? Councilor Buckwalter,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reckie-Trumpo,
Yes.
and yes, carried. Thank you. So upcoming meetings and unfinished business. We will get notification of our next meeting. And then item number 15, that motion that council go into closed session pursuant to section 2392B of the Municipal Act. And it's one litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Buckwalter, seconded by Councilor Burns. That we will be going into closed at 9:13 p.m. Councilor Buckwalter,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yeah.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reckie-Trumpo.
Yes.
Yes, very. Moved by Councilor Burns, seconded by Councilor Buckwalter. Councilor Buckwalter,
Yes.
Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reckie-Trumpo,
Yes.
and yes, it's carried. So now closed at 9:31. Okay. So I have a motion that staff take action as directed by council in closed session, and it's regarding potential litigation. Was moved by Councilor Buckwalter, seconded by Councilor Burns. Councilor Buckwalter,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reckie-Trumpo,
Yes.
and yes, that's great. Thank you. Item 17 is our confirmatory bylaw. Item a bylaw that 2022-31 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of May 17th, 2022. We read it first and second time on the 17th day of May 2022. Can I get a motion in seconder? Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Buckfall. Read a third time and finally passed the 17th day of May 2022. Councilor Buckfall,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Schoenfeld.
Yeah.
Yes, carried. Thank you. And finally, number 18 is adjournment. I have a motion that this May 17th, 2022 regular meeting in Township adjourns at 9:33 p.m. Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Burns, Councilor Buckle,
Yes.
Councilor Burns, yes, Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Schoenfeld.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you all very much.